So hey everybody, if you're wondering why you just heard a car starting up, that is because for today's movie review, I'm going to tell you about the new video game film adaptation, which is Need for Speed, which is a film adaptation of the classic Electronic Arts game franchise. In this film, you guys, because the Need for Speed video games really doesn't have much of a storyline, as expected, they kind of had to come up with a storyline of their own to make this work. And unfortunately, not a lot of it works from what I saw and for the film. So in this film, basically, Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad is the lead star of the movie. He is a mechanic that kind of runs his own business along with a group of friends. One of them, for some odd reason, owns a helicopter, and he has a helicopter license and things like that. And the other guys, including Aaron Paul himself, they like to do street racing on the side of fixing people's cars and things of that nature. So they perform really well at the street race near the beginning of the film, and there's a guy played by Dominic Cooper. For those of you who saw Captain America, the first film, or My Week with Marilyn, he starred in both films. He plays the lead villain of the film. He's impressed with Aaron Paul's and his group's performance as street racers, and he himself is a street racer, who also performed really well in the street race. And he offers them a opportunity to work on a car that would give them a lot of money, which is good for them because they have a hard time paying bills in this mechanic shop that they run, and they really need the money. And so they figure, why not? Let's just fix up this car. We're going to get money for it. Let's just do it for this guy and get it over with. So it's very successful. The person that they ended up having to sell this car to get money for it, was very happy with what they did. And shortly after that happened, they wanted to, thank the guy for giving them this opportunity. This guy, because he's also a street racer, he gives them the opportunity to give it's Aaron Paul's character an additional friend, and this Dominic Cooper character. Those three would only be street racing each other, and just an opportunity to street race. Three versus three, that kind of thing. Because before, there was this big group that they were a part of for the previous street race, and it goes wrong. And this really isn't a spoiler because they show it in the trailer. The comic relief friend, not Aaron Paul, but the friend, who was also racing in this street race. The comic relief character died in the race, and Aaron Paul wants to get revenge on the guy who basically for doing this to this friend for the street race that it was just amongst these three guys. People think that Aaron Paul did it since the guy left the scene, and there really wasn't evidence that he killed him since he bumped his car into this other guy, which kind of was basically killed him. So Aaron Paul, it's about 2 years later. He had to spend time in prison for this, like I said, because he didn't really have evidence that the Dominic Cooper character did it. And he finds out that when he gets out of prison, he meets up with his guy friends again, the mechanics, who he used to have the shop. Now it's shut down because they weren't able to pay the bills, because him being in prison and things like that. And they find out that the Dominic Cooper character is going to be racing in this international street racing event, which only a few people can get in, and those who are part of the race only know where it takes place and where the course is going to be. So Aaron Paul and this girl that he met earlier in the film decide to travel to wherever they're going to provide directions for the race, so to kind of get his opportunity to be able to race with the Dominic Cooper character and finally get his revenge for losing his friend for those 2 years previously. So Need for Speed, you guys, as much as I was looking forward to this film, I viewed this kind of as an opportunity to, I knew it wasn't probably going to be as good as Fast Five, and it wasn't. But I found this as a good opportunity, for a video game film to, kind of stand on its own ground, use what you can from the video game, but make your own original story out of it. And unfortunately, Need for Speed very much lacked in that department. I was really hoping for a good original story using fast cars, and unfortunately, this film really didn't do it for me in that sense. But for the positives and negatives of Need for Speed, I thought the cars in this film were very cool. Whoever selected the cars for this, whoever tracked down, designed, drove these cars, and this did a terrific job. It was some really neat cars that were used for the movie. Playing off that, the car stunts and the car action scenes were pretty good in this. Really wasn't my complaint with the film, really. I'll get to that in a second of why I didn't really care for this film, but the car stunts and the car action, for the most part, were pretty good in this. Aaron Paul's performance, I was very impressed with in this. You can definitely tell he still has that Breaking Bad, the Breaking Bad stardom in him. He's definitely continuing off of a career that's very much gonna put him in the right place if he hopefully finds better scripts in the future. Kind of playing that tough kid role. So overall, Aaron Paul's performance I was perfectly fine with in this. He kind of reminded me of Vin Diesel's character from the Fast and Furious films, the Dominic Toretto kind of feeling. Each team member had their own unique characteristics. Aaron Paul, was the leader of the group. He was the tough guy. One of them even pointed out in the movie that he really didn't say a lot, but when he does talk, it does kind of sound a little badass. There's the goofy character. There's the guy that has all these things where you don't know how he has them. That's the helicopter guy. And you have the guy who is kind of the tech guy of the group, is the really smart guy. So it very much kind of Ninja Turtle personal characteristic kind of feeling to this group of mechanics who street race on the side. So I kind of liked how each of them had their own unique characteristic when it came to what they were going to be like throughout the movie. I thought that was very good. I liked the real-time car traffic feeling in this. You really got the impression that these cars are racing in everyday traffic, and I really liked that feeling. Even like the clouds in the sky and the environments that they were racing through really felt like something you would be driving through on an everyday basis. Like on the highway or on the interstate. I really liked how they had that feeling for this. Whether that was a set or not, I don't really know. But they did do a really good job, really making it feel like these people were doing these illegal street races on these everyday, um, you know, these everyday streets that people would drive to get to work and get to their home and things like that. When it comes to sharing similarities from the game, there is a lot of slow motion crashes in this, similar to what happens in the game whenever you crash into something. So I liked how they kept that aspect, that element from the game and brought it into the film. I thought that was kind of clever. Now for the negatives. There were several plot holes in this film. I can't even begin to tell you how many plot holes in this. I can't even go into detail because of how far we're into this video, but there is so many plot holes in this movie. There is very little character development in this movie besides the unique characteristics of these mechanics and the villains and things like that. There is barely any character development. Besides the Aaron Paul character, we really don't get to know these characters. We don't get to know their motivations. We don't get to know, how they got all these cars and these helicopters, and why mechanic? What made them become mechanics? How did they discover street racing? How did they get invited to street racing? There's just so many questions I had on my mind that the film just was too lazy to answer. Just so many things about this movie that just didn't answer anything. The love interest in this film, who followed Aaron Paul to this race and very much was, kind of, the reason why Aaron Paul had to use a different car for this race when you'll see in the movie. Very annoying love interest in this movie. I just did not like the character. I didn't like her at the beginning. I didn't like her when Aaron Paul was close to her. I did not like this character. Very annoying love interest. This actress is very much up for a Razzie. I think it's just not a very good performance, not a very good character. Um, the Michael Keaton character was both underused and over the top, and that's kind of sad. Being that Michael Keaton, I think, is one of the best things that it was going for this movie besides Aaron Paul. But yeah, very underused. We really didn't get to see him. We only get to see him near the beginning and near the end when the final street race of the movie happens. Very over the top performance. I didn't like how. I don't think this is Michael Keaton's fault. I just think it's the directors and the writers' fault for not giving his character something interesting to do in this movie. Just way too over the top, and I just didn't like what they did with Michael Keaton's character in this. This is another huge complaint I had about this movie. There was either no cops at all when all these street races were happening, or when the cops did show up, they were very, very stupid, and you just had no idea who in the right mind would hire such stupid people to, catch these guys that are like the most wanted criminals in the U.S. And it's just like, where are the cops in this? And when they do show up, why are they so stupid? It's like I don't like it when a movie strictly makes characters stupid just so the plot works. I think that's a very cheap gimmick. It's overdone. It's just it's a very bad, cheap way to get what you want from your script. I think it's just a very stupid thing to do. Um, this film has a lot of generic and overused content. Everything about this movie has been used in Fast Five. It has been used in like Hustle and Flow and Transformers and anything you can imagine. From an action. If it's been done in the action genre before, I guarantee Need for Speed copies it in some way or another. Just very generic and overused content was used for this movie. I also felt the film felt longer than it should. For a 2 hour and 10-minute movie, I felt like I was in that theater for a good 2 hours and 30 minutes. And it's just like, why does this film feel so long? Um, there was several convenient solutions and conflicts in this. The characters either got way too easily out of something, or the conflicts, they showed up way too easily, just to complicate things for the sake of complicating them. And just this whole movie was a mess. I'm sorry. It's just I did not like this movie. There was just so many, like I said, very little plot holes, very little character development, an annoying love interest. Michael Keaton was not used correctly in this. How they portrayed cops in this was bad. Like I said, felt longer than it should. Just generic, overused content. Several convenient solutions. Several convenient conflicts. I did not like this movie. As much as those compliments I gave it near the beginning of this review, I just did not like this movie. So Need for Speed, you guys, I'm gonna give it a 5.5 out of 10. It's really not a good movie. I know that's a little high for all the negative things I said about it, but like I said, the car stunts were good in it. Aaron Paul gave a good performance. I liked that real time traffic feeling, but and even some of the characteristics of the game appeared in this every once in a while. But when it comes to character development and plot and things that are very essential for making a really good movie, Need for Speed doesn't do anything of any of those things very well at all. So Need for Speed, don't see it. It's really not a good film. 5.5 out of 10 for me. Be sure to skip this one. It's just really not worth your time and money.